Hello, it's Sophie from Happy Well and Fed. Welcome back. Today I'm talking about symptoms. So, symptoms, I believe, are always a sign from our body of something that it's trying to communicate. You know, our body doesn't have words, so the way it can speak to us is through the symptoms that it gives us. The symptoms of a headache, the symptoms of fluttering in the stomach, the symptoms of a sore throat, of feeling tired, of lacking energy, of feeling uninspired. These are all signs from our body that there's something that needs to change. So perhaps you've got a list of symptoms a mile long and no real idea of, where they're coming from or why they're there, and they don't fit into any certain disease profile. Maybe you can't get a diagnosis, or maybe there isn't a diagnosis for what you're experiencing. And I also know that when you start to take a moment to be quiet and be with yourself, then your body starts to speak even louder. Sometimes it even roars. So my challenge to you is to, regardless of what you've got going on, is to tune in and really listen to your body. Now, I'm not saying dwell on what's going on for you. Don't let this be a moment to be like, poor me, I feel so terrible. Oh, I always get sick. I always feel this way. Try not to attach a judgment or a story to it. Don't let that part of your mind take over. Instead, create a curious and inquiring way of looking at it. If it helps you, it might make a difference to keep a food diary. This for me made a really big difference on determining where certain symptoms were coming from. So keep a food diary for the next week of everything that you eat, and after you've eaten a meal, jot down how you feel in your body. Something as simple as that will start to bring your awareness into the difference that it makes when you make different food choices. Another way to do this is to sit down and, either with a journal or however you like to express yourself, start to identify stressors in your life. Whether you're aware of it or not consciously, we all have stress that we carry, and this stress manifests itself in all manner of different ways, and quite often in physical symptoms if we haven't been listening. So sit down and, ask yourself, what's going on for me today? What are the things that, if I could wave a magic wand and they could just go away, what would I magic away? That's a really good sign of something that, isn't the way you want it to be in your life. So when we become aware of this and, the things that we're carrying around with us every day, perhaps we're carrying around anger or resentment or disappointment or guilt or shame or frustration or sadness about something that we've experienced, or something that someone has said or done, or something that makes us not feel great. Having a look at these things and the way we experience them in our bodies gives us a really big idea of, why we have certain symptoms. So a great way to tune into your body is to sit yourself down and stop. Take a moment and really just be with yourself. This can be so scary, particularly when we're so used to just being on that wheel and constantly in that race of next thing, next thing, next thing, next thing. But the ability to stop and recollect and take a moment to really just be aware, it tells you a lot when you allow it to. So practice this today, taking a moment and, coming back into your body rather than existing up in your mind or somewhere outside of you, and see what's going on for you. Where do you feel tension in your body? Where do you feel pleasure? Where do you feel peaceful, and where do you feel stressed? And then see if you can go a bit deeper. And this is great with a journal, is today I'm feeling, and bleh, just get it all out. I'm feeling tension in my knee, I'm feeling pain here, I feel anxious but I'm not sure why. Just start to unpack all of those things, and you start to get a really good idea of what your symptoms are trying to tell you in your body. So often this comes from our emotions and our thoughts as well, and they manifest as bodily experiences. A great way to think about it is to separate yourself from your thoughts and your emotions by saying this great line, which I learnt from Kelly Wilson, one of the creators of acceptance and commitment therapy, and it's to say to yourself, I am not my thoughts or feelings. I am separate from them. When we start to acknowledge this, we realise that we don't have to jump on that thought train and let it carry us away to wherever we're going or wherever it wants us to go. You know, when we start to pause and separate ourselves, it suddenly becomes not about judgment but about noticing. You know, start to name it. Say, I am having the feeling that. I am having the thought that. There's that story about my guilt. There's that story about my shame. There's that disappointment story. There's that what if I can't do it story. When we start to see these as what they are, and we realise that this is our primal brain's way of, you know, making sure we still survive. You know, we were wired so that we wouldn't be left out by the tribe, because we knew that if we were left out by the tribe, we would eventually starve and die. So in today's world, our mind still works in this way to say, you know, ooh, make sure you fit in. Ooh, don't buck the system. All of these things that we very subconsciously say to ourselves, we then interpret into thoughts and emotions and stories that we tell ourselves about why we're not good enough. And when we start to actually look at them for what they are, you know, they're stories, thoughts, feelings, emotions that are trying to make us survive based on the threats that we perceive. You know, they're not the old threats of a tiger. They're the new threats of, you know, being socially isolated, or not being invited to something, or maybe not being able to get that promotion or buy that thing you want or earn as much money as you'd like, you know, or not having the ability to finish the to-do list that, you know, you add something new to every day. All of these things combine into us constantly feeling in this stressed state, and even though we're not consciously aware of it, our body is doing the stressing for us. So a great way to come back to that is to realise that you can control your actions and reactions to whatever happens. A great way to switch over from your fight or flight nervous system or your stress response into your relaxation response or your rest and digest response is to start to be aware of your breath. So when we breathe shallow breaths, it tells our body that we need to be in fight or flight response. And when we breathe nice deep breaths all the way into our stomach, then it actually switches us over into the relaxation response, and it tricks our body to think that we're relaxed even if we're feeling highly stressed. So that's something you can do. But yeah, just remember that every symptom that you get from your body is a sign. You know, it's asking you to look at something. It's asking you to tune in and say, you know, what is this trying to tell me? Is it something as simple as, I need to drink more water, or I should go to bed an hour earlier so that my body can rest and relax? Does it say, you know, please give me more self-care time so that I can come from a place of having something to give? Is it saying something big like, every time you go to work, you constantly have this big feeling of stress, and, you know, look at that and say, perhaps my reaction to my work is what is giving me these symptoms, or my reaction to someone close to me. Remember that you can always control you. So when you start to do the inner work and look at you, and then start to work out the bits that you can control and change about you and your life, then you start to free yourself up. And I know I found that a lot of my ongoing symptoms that I carried started to dissipate when I started to look at what they were really saying. So identify your stresses and see, you know, where are they really coming from and how are they manifesting in your body. Tune into your body, you know, both with your breath and with your ability to perceive what's going on where and where you're carrying it. And, you know, give a food diary a go, because that can tell you a lot about how your body reacts as well. That's all for today. Thanks for being here. Here's to you being happy, well and fed. Delicious, healthy, inspiring whole foods. Love from Sophie.